So I learned a long time ago that when Gregg Popovich speaks, that's a room you want to be in. I mean, you just never know which seemingly average topic is going to unspool into something much more interesting. Which is why last night I found myself waiting for Pop's normal pregame media availability across the street here at Staples Center. And like always, I was not disappointed. See, Pop got what seemed like a routine question. Why is LaMarcus Aldridge thriving this season? His blunt answer? Because I stopped overcoaching him. Pop then noted that for 2 seasons, he had been trying to make Aldridge more of a face-up player, overload him with set plays at the elbow, all of that stuff. It was leaving LaMarcus both frustrated and ineffective, and in the end, Pop said, quote, "That was just silly on my part, total overcoaching." First of all, it's fascinating Pop has been so ready to admit this. He certainly doesn't have to. But what was more interesting is what came next. I asked Pop, well, what brought on this decision to change the way you coach him? And he answered, quote, when he said he wanted to be traded, and that no one in Pop's 20 years had ever told him that before. Oh, well then. Aldridge had told ESPN during training camp that he and Pop sat down for some heart-to-heart talks this summer, but no one knew he'd asked for a trade, and there is more.
I was very candid with him. I, told him I'd be happy to trade you. You get me a talent like Kevin Durant, and I'll drive you to the airport. I'll pack your bags, and I will drive you there and get you on the plane and get you seated. And we'll do it. He laughed, that kind of thing. And I said, but short of that, I'm your best buddy because you're here for another year and you ain't going nowhere because we're not going to get, for you, talent-wise, what we would want. So let's figure this thing out.
And they sat down and they figured it out over dinner and a bottle of wine, of course, because this is Gregg Popovich.
Of course.
But they did it. And the result has been stunning. In a season where Kawhi Leonard has played just 8 games, it is Aldridge who has the Spurs at the number 3 seed in the West, and he's doing it his way, posting up on 41% of his possessions, unleashing that devastating turnaround mid-range jumper that, yeah, it's out of fashion right now, but it is certainly not out of effectiveness. When I caught up with LaMarcus last night, he laughed when he heard Pop's quotes, and then he added, it was a bit intimidating going to Pop at all, because he'd so expected that a guy with 5 rings would give him the my way or the highway speech. That's why he asked for the highway, for a trade in the first place. But it turned out Pop was willing to change, and that's what makes Pop one of the most exceptional coaches in sports. And Aldridge, by the way, was willing to try again, which he should get credit for too. It's funny in the NBA, we most often hear about it when people don't want to talk, and tensions build up, and then it finally explodes. It is nice to be reminded that there is another way to go about things. And not really a surprise that once again, it's the Spurs reminding us. I mean, what is your reaction, guys, to what Pop shared? Because, Tracy, you've had a bunch of different coaches that you've had different kinds of relationships. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm totally doing this wrong for 2 seasons? I'm going to do it your way?
No, this is this shows how great a coach Pop is and how understanding he is about his players. When LaMarcus Aldridge got there, I thought he was going to flourish into this system of San Antonio Spurs, which has been around for quite some time, with big men like Duncan and David Robinson coming into the picture, and he just didn't look comfortable out in this system, right? He had a phenomenal season before going there with Portland, and he just looked out of whack, right? Just didn't look comfortable, and something had to change. Like if you don't feel comfortable in the system, you don't feel comfortable with the way the coach is coaching you, of course, yes, you want to get out. But it's good that these guys put aside everything, sat down over dinner and wine, and now he's having a phenomenal season. This is how I envision LaMarcus Aldridge playing with the San Antonio Spurs.
I think dinner and wine and a lot of wine, especially when you talk about Pop, we know that. But I give kudos to both guys because, like you said, LaMarcus for going in and saying, listen, I know it's going to be his way out of the highway, so I'm going to just ask to be traded. You got to have a lot of guts to go in and talk to a Hall of Fame coach like Popovich and even ask that or request that. And for Pop for sitting there and saying, wait a minute, let's figure this out. He's won 5 titles, and great coaches understand that they have to be able to adapt with great players. And that's exactly what he did. Let's sit down, tell me what I'm doing wrong, how can I better fit you into the system to make you a much better basketball player, which in turn is going to make us a much better basketball team. Pat Riley, you got to give him a lot of credit with the Showtime Lakers. He goes to New York. They don't have horses that can run up and down the floor.
Right.
So he changed into a grind type game. Slow it down, half court, beat them up, physical type of brand of basketball. That's what great coaches do. They are willing and able to adjust the situations to their players, and Pop is the reason that he is the best coach in the NBA.
Yeah, and I had this situation when I first went to Houston playing with Yao Ming. I never played with a dominant big man like that, and for me, it was just all out of whack offensively. I had no rhythm whatsoever in the beginning of that. And, I had to sit down and talk to Jeff Van Gundy. How can I be the player that I was in Orlando?
Right.
Because that's the best for our team. I know I'm playing with a big man, but I have to be myself for us to be, who we want to be. And we figured it out. Obviously we didn't do anything in the playoffs, but
you figured it out well enough.
Right.
Yes, and some injury issues. When you were coaching, Byron, did you have some of that situation with a player?
Well, with one, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
I had that when he was young. And Chris was such a guy that respected, veterans. He didn't want to be the boisterous guy. He didn't want to be that leader. And I said, CP, they respect you, and I need you to take it to that different level. I need you to be able to yell at P.J. Brown and David West and tell those guys where they need to be. He wasn't willing to do that at the beginning because he felt as a rookie or a second-year player, I can't yell at P.J. That's a 10-year vet. And I was like, no. Believe me, he'll respect you even more because they already respect the way you play. So, sometimes the coach has to go to the player and say, listen, this is what I need from you. And CP was willing to adapt to that situation and become a much better.
Chris Paul is like that. I think Blake Griffin and Austin Rivers might have something to say to you. I don't know. I'm going to send them to your door.
Hey, come on now. I'll tell you what I told him, and it's all good.
Absolutely. And I think he seems to have a great relationship with Mike D'Antoni, but I would say prior to this, his relationship with you was the one I up close at least saw was the best player-coach relationship he's ever had. So I think that speaks volumes.
Well, thank you.
I will also say about Pop, we saw through all of his tenure, he has been adaptable in playing style.
Yes.
You mentioned with Pat Riley and Showtime.
Yes.
It's not a surprise he was adaptable with a player, but as he put it, it's the first time in 20 years this has happened, and he reacted exactly the way you would want Pop to react.